Everyone, I am Dr. Ashok Narayanamoorthi. I am a flight surgeon currently based in the Middle East. And whatever the ready technology which is available in the market and being utilized in the LASIK surgery procedures.
Welcome back on the SpaceInfo podcast. Here we talk about space and everything related to it. If you are passionate about space, astronomy, technology, and everything about it, you can join all our social platforms at the SpaceInfo Club or our website at www.spaceinfo.club, where tons of content and a community of experts are there waiting for you. This is the SpaceInfo Club. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back on the SpaceInfo podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Ashok Narayanamoorthi. I hope that I've said it correctly. And if you want to tell us who you are and what you do in your life.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Ashok Narayanamoorthi. I am a flight surgeon currently based in the Middle East. And my background is I have done my medical degree in India, MBBS. Then I did my residency in aerospace medicine. Then I moved on to US for clinical research, and then I did my clinical rotation with NASA Johnson Space Center for Moon, Mars, and Near Earth Asteroid Program. In the meantime, I received an offer in the Middle East to set up aviation medicine training center. So I had to move out of the US and came to the Middle East. And for the past around 10 years, I've been working in the Middle East, supporting the aviation medicine part. And my passion is really into space medicine. So I've been working on several commercial spaceflight projects too, and with the analog mission. So this is my brief background.
Okay, so I hope that you people that are listening this episode are as excited as I am, because today we are mixing two very interesting and amazing topics. One is space, and that's why the interview is with the Space Info Club, and the other topic is medicine. So I think it will be super interesting to talk with you. So thanks again for being here. I think that we can start after this brief introduction. And I'd like to talk about the merge between space and medicine. So how space exploration has influenced medical advancements, and also vice versa, because we've been highlighting a specific example of technologies developed for space that now we use on Earth, and also as I was saying, vice versa. So you had the opportunity to look beyond, to look at what's going to happen in the future. So it would be amazing if you can tell us something about this.
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I will start with a brief history about the development of the space technology and how the medicine intertwined with it. Then I will share a recent experience based on my training in the space medicine part, which really helped in the recent pandemic. So first, I will start with the historical part. So space is relatively a new industry with the human space flight spanning for the past 60 to 70 years. But the technology behind it and the ideas behind it is like around a century old. So people were a little bit worried because we are not built for flying, or we are not built, our body is not built for experiencing different stresses of the space. So it has been always spectacle. That's why when there were selection of astronauts, there have been a lot of parameters, and medicals takes like a lot of time in selecting the best possible crew combination. So we have like several panels of test, several rounds of test. So earlier it used to be select out criteria. So we had a bigger pool of applicants. Then we narrow it down to 5 or 6, maximum a number of 10 in an astronaut class. So this helped us in understanding the human physiology, and which in turn introduced like a lot of new technologies being implemented from these techniques into the masses. This is called as spin of technology. Whatever we get from the space industry, which is being utilized in other industries like medical, automobile, or aviation, this is called a spin-off technology. And whatever the ready technology which is available in the market, which is being transferred or utilized in the space, it's called spinning technology. Both are existing and both are developing industries. This is one of the important reasons why we have to like focus on space industry as much, because the novel technologies being developed for the industry can be transferred to be utilized for masses. Traditionally, NASA has been in the forefront of giving these spin-off technologies, and they have a separate division where this is being like handled off. Now, of late, in the recent past couple of decades, other space agencies have been also chipping in with specific technology transfers. I just wanted to briefly highlight, like everybody have been like using the CAT scan and the MRI. The softwares which are being utilized for this is originally developed in the space industry, and this has helped the imaging industry in the medical imaging industry to go leaps and beyonds. uh, the infrared ear thermometers, the or otherwise called as the oral thermometers, are been originally developed for the space medical part, but nowadays we have been seeing this left and right, especially in COVID. Even a normal technician or an untrained personnel will be would have been able to use these thermometers effectively. And we have like a various devices used in the heart, like a ventricular assisted devices. This has been developed in the space industry. Now everybody is using LASIK for their correction of refractive errors. This is coming from the 80s technology, where the imaging modality for using for the docking of the spacecraft, the same technology is being transferred and being utilized in the LASIK surgery procedures. Even the cochlear implant, people who cannot use any hearing aids, cochlear implants have been like very helpful. These have been developed from the 70s and 80s technology. There have been several artificial limbs, lightweight limbs have been developed from these technologies. Recently, if you see the light emitting diodes, space blanket, all these have become part of medical therapy also. The invisible braces, which are being currently very popular, is from the space technology. And now 3D printing is being done extensively outside. The 3D printing of food, which is done in the market, is being utilized in the space industry now. So it has become very good spin in technology, and the development from these 3D food printing or the medical drug printing, which are they have been utilized in the space industry, this gets transferred into the regular market. So this becomes like both ways, both spin in and spin off technologies. And there are other space industries like ISRO, which come into picture too. Like they have developed a lot of cheaper technologies in the medical purposes. So one example is an light artificial foot. This was part of one of the programs in the early 2000s. So uh, the artificial foot always like costs a lot, but we had a different variant in India which is called as Jaipur foot, that has been made way later. It weighs less than half a kilos. So it was very very helpful for the patients, and it's very very cost effective also. And they developed some strong hand sanitizer which is used in the occupational hazards. It's called as ped clean. And they have developed a new type of dentures, like lightweight dentures. If I'm not wrong, it's called as some acramid, which helps in replacing the missing teeth. These are some small examples of the spin-off technologies which have come from the space industry. There are several things which came from the medical industry into the space industry, like food. reheatable food, frozen foods, and it went both ways also. Then the technology got mastered in the space industry, and then it came in a new way of implementation in extreme environments. So uh, these are some of the examples of spin-off and the spin-in technologies from space and medicine.
I think that they are very great example of how technology has been developed for something that requires actually being on the outpost of what we currently had and we currently have also at the present, and the challenging of let's say being space and the need of having that high degree of technology advancement actually pushes our limits. And I would like to introduce the next topic on this line, because now I'd like to talk about the medical challenges that we have in space travel, particularly the medical challenges that are faced by astronauts during long duration missions. We know that bone density and also muscle atrophy, radiation exposures, and also the solution developed to address these issues are very important nowadays. Also, if we don't want to spin off a technology, but also to stay in the space field and face the next challenges of interplanetary space travel. So maybe you'd like to tell us something about the medical challenges in the space field nowadays.
Now space travel has the horizons have expanded a lot. It's no longer low Earth orbit, like we are looking at the moon, Mars, interplanetary missions. So the big thing which we need to understand is like what is the human body capable of, how much adaptation and readaptation it can take in, and what are the stressors there is a possibility of stressors which they can experience during this space travel, either in space flight or when you are reaching another planetary body. So our understanding is very limited, because the number of human spaceflight missions to in the longer duration for more than like 6 months, the number is like very very limited, and the interplanetary missions, the data is also limited. But what helps us in understand all these stresses and risks is like we have like several models. So we kind of plot it like what are the understanding and what are the gaps. So once the gaps are like analyzed in separate, like a dissertation or a thesis done individually for each topic by a student, like these are like suggestions given to the students so that they individually research on that. So these gaps get analyzed, and they we can have a risk score for it, like for each system of the human body and how human body as a whole. So the common stresses we find in the space is the first one for the long duration travel is the risk of radiation. So once we cross the Allen belt, then the galactic cosmic radiation is very very high. So this is the major risk factor which have been limiting us for interplanetary travel. So the second thing is microgravity or hypogravity. Then when you are in a long period of microgravity, if you want to land on any other planetary body, then you will experience a brief moment of hypergravity and the hypogravity in the planetary body. So how are these like risks assessed? So right now we have data from models, prediction models, and we have several unmanned missions like where they measure all these parameters so that we understand what is the acceptable and expected risks. So for radiation, currently in the low Earth orbit, the technology is like you go into a secured area where usually it is covered by the external water tanks so that it prevents the primary radiation to pass through you, or the effects of secondary radiation is minimized. This is the current possible way, and there are attempts to utilize the medical technologies like immunoboosters and modulators but still there are studies being conducted how it will help us uh, in this radiation environment. There are certain analog population available in Earth, like people who are working in the medical imaging industry, like CT scan industry, or people who are working in non-destructible technology, NDT technologies in the avionics. So these guys are like close to the radiation equipment, so they are continuously monitored with the dosimeter, so we get those data, populate it, and try to predict like how much risk is possible, and where should we have the protection. So based on this, currently the group advises to protect the genital or the perineal area, the area near the heart, and area near your brain, and possibly like helmet like protection which will cover which will protect your eyes also. So this is the current hot topic, how to mitigate the radiation. So once you enter a planetary body like Moon or Mars, so subterranean models, subterranean living spaces are being explored to avoid this kind of radiation risk factors. The second important stressor is the hypogravity or the microgravity. So even in low Earth orbit, the actual gravity effect is almost around 90% what you face on the Earth, because you are continuously on orbiting around the Earth, and you are on a continuous free fall. That's why you are experiencing. Uh, it's a kind of simulated microgravity environment in the low Earth orbit, like in International Space Station. So as the duration of exposure increases, its effect on several systems is like longer lasting. When we examine the astronauts' data who are coming from long duration missions more than 6 months or 1 year, we see that to return to baseline coming after Earth is like it takes even for certain conditions it takes even 1 to 2 years. Like for example, like hormonal bone metabolism, it takes like longer duration. So what they do, like they do like preventive steps, like regular exercise during their mission. Almost their exercise regime will comprise of around 2 to 4 hours depending on the mission they are detailed for. So every day they have to exercise that, so that the muscle and bone density is being taken care of. They will be having vitamin supplements, proper diet, regular checks, invasive, both invasive with blood checks and non-invasive checks also. So this is how we monitor and see, okay, this is like this person will be able to withstand it, this person will not be able to withstand it. So then for medical reasons the astronaut can be like sent back to Earth. But there is a problem in interplanetary missions. So if they are in a different planetary body like Moon or Mars in the future, so they cannot completely rely on Earth for every medical emergency. So they have to have their own medical capability. That's why all the astronauts undergo proper training for the handling the medical emergencies. Even though the number of physician astronauts are less, but in future for interplanetary missions there will be a lot of physician astronauts which are being considered to handle all the medical emergencies, because it will be a closed loop in that planetary mission. There will be difference in timing from Earth to that planetary body, maybe in minutes or in seconds, depending on what the planetary body we are looking at. So these are the current available mitigations for microgravity. There is a lower body negative pressure, cooling garments, and saline loading. These are the common things which are being currently utilized, and there are newer technologies in the dock also. And third important thing, which is always not talked in open, is isolation part. In an isolated environment, human behavior is like very different. We have seen this recently in and the COVID-19 pandemic, where everybody were isolated with limited movements, limited interaction. Many people became crazy. Even worse, it was worse than the fear was worse than the disease, and we can still see the anxiety in the kids who were like all locked up during the COVID pandemic. So isolation plays a big thing. So there are mechanisms to cope up, and there are channels like where the astronauts can privately discuss whatever they are having with the flight surgeons on ground, and it is purely confidential. Like the data is not released unless the astronaut gives an authorization, and they have their family time, they have their own time, they have their personal favorite foods. So this is how the isolation is being countered. You may have seen pictures of astronauts sitting in the cupola of the International Space Station. Many of them have reported the same thing. This is our favorite place to watch Earth from here and take pictures. So this is how the major risk factors. There are other minor risk factors in long duration space travel, but if I go on, it will be like classes together. I think better I will stop right here for this question.
Yeah, so thank you for telling us a lot of things. For me, the class would be very interesting actually, and I think also for the rest of the audience. So thanks again. But what we can understand in extreme synthesis is that space is harsh. So it
Yeah.
is an extreme environment, and also you at the beginning tested say that some people can be can adapt to the environment, some other cannot. So some people can actually are more prone than other to go into space. So maybe we can spend some words on the little test and some lessons that we can also learn here on Earth when we talk about medicine in extreme environment such as expedition. So, for example, the medical challenges and the solutions that we encountered during, let's say, extreme expedition on Earth. So, for example, polar treks or deep sea dives, and how the human body adapts to this environment, if the human body actually adapts.
Yeah, this is a good analog for space. So we usually rely a lot of the confidence limit of these data from these expedition medicine is really high, because we can simulate several environments from the space industry for the space industry. So usual missions which are targeted are several military missions or civilian expeditions in the Arctic or the Antarctic region, where they are isolated for summers or winters, and the submarine missions, like where they go on for weeks to months depending on their mission profile. So we get a lot of data from here. Like we get like short term data, medium data spanning for weeks. There are several data which spans for months, few data which spans for years also, which we can extrapolate. It doesn't stop here just with the polar expeditions. We have like high altitude missions, like missions in the Himalayan area or the K2 peak or other peaks. So where you can simulate multiple factors. You can simulate like a hypoxia environment along with isolation, and you can introduce other risk factors also. So if we carefully obtain the data from these environments, the quality of data is really, really good. And we can use similar technologies, and we can refine all those technologies from the mission. So these are called as like the practice analog mission. For example, we have a Mars Desert Research Station in Utah, and there is one in Arctic, which is called as FMARS, and there are several analogs in different countries, in Chile, in India, in Russia. There are so many analog missions where we can simulate these environments to understand what is going on better. The most important factor which is analyzed is isolation and survival skills. Even astronauts who have been selected, who are called as astronaut candidates, so they have to spend all such missions in order to fine tune their survival skills. sea survival, jungle survival, snow survival. All these survival skills are part of their training, so they have to know all the things about it. So nowadays, with the development of the UAVs or the drones, we are able to reach to these farther locations easily, and we are able to like replenish the supplies. Earlier, it used to be very difficult. You have to plan specifically for delivering supplies, for example, like food or medical, or if there is an emergency, evacuating from one extreme location to the other location is very, very difficult. Now, recently, with the telemedicine, telesurgery, the improvement in robotic surgery techniques, minimal invasive diagnostic features, and monitors, minimally invasive monitors, things have become more easier. I will not say it is easy, because still the person on ground, she should be able to utilize all these support remotely and able to apply to that medical emergency or survival emergency. So we learn a lot of things, and we develop protocols from these expedition missions, and this can be utilized for the development for training of astronauts, or development of procedures for actual interplanetary missions, and then refine those procedures based on the pilot missions. So people generally don't land immediately on Moon or Mars. They will like do a circumnavigation. Initially there will be like unmanned missions, so we get a lot of parameters from there also. Then we see like, okay, these procedures are working well, these procedures need like a fine tuning, and these help a lot in such scenarios. I wanted to share my experience in COVID pandemic, like the training received in the space medicine part also. So 3D printing was one of our trainings during the early part of pandemic. It was difficult to source in all the personal protective equipments. So with the 3D print, there was a 3D printer lying with one of our technicians. So we used his personal printer, started printing face shields, face masks, and we repurposed so many of our other clothing equipment into like using as a personal protective equipment. We started using the same telemedicine training procedures in segregating the patients. So these were all really helpful during those period, and I was really confident during the time in administering all these procedures, because I had the training from the space medicine part. So that was a good spin of technology or the medical procedure for me to utilize. And what I have learned from the pandemic, I try to apply here also, like in the space medicine field. So what do you do with isolation? Because there were a lot of people who were in isolation behaving differently. Everybody had their own fears and worries, even though you are there for constant support. So we fine tuned our procedures in these how to work in extreme environments, when to escalate, when not to escalate. So it was helpful both ways. And so what I want to say is like it should be a continuous learning process. Like we learn from each procedure, each misadventure, and each expedition, so that we can fine tune our the space missions, especially the long duration space flights.
Yeah, so I think that they must be amazing experience to be done. Let's say, yeah, you have isolation on one side, but then I think that if you have the right attitude, you can really learn a lot, and also
Yes.
learning about other people. And I think that the most maybe the most difficult, but I my view the most interesting thing is learning about yourself basically. And
Yes.
I would like to stress the isolation point, talking about what you said. Maybe nowadays is a little easier than a few decades ago, because we have. We can have remote connection with people. How the let's say the remote experience comes into medicine, into what can be called telemedicine. So how does it support both the space mission and also the remote expedition on Earth, and also how the advancements in this field are improving, let's say the healthcare in isolated environment. So I'm thinking about people who are not isolated by their own choice, but maybe they live in distant location on Earth. I'm thinking about distant villages in some continent like Africa, South America, or also in Asia. I think that there are a lot of people that are isolated, but that's not their choice. So maybe telemedicine can also improve in these fields.
Yeah, telemedicine has improved a lot. People were skeptical before 2020 to depend on telemedicine consultation. I had personal experience in the early 2000s, uh, the 2010, around 2010. It was like just the developing stage, and your connectivity is like very poor, and the bandwidth is like very less. So people were really skeptical about it, and even in larger organization, people were not ready to utilize it. But within weeks of pandemic, I could see a vast change. People accepted this telemedicine, telesurgery, all the robotics part, like automation, remote. I have never seen the actual medical medicine being done remotely. I think that was the first time I was seeing working from home. So this was yeah, big mental change as a community, as people accepting new technologies in a short duration of time. That means what this shows is like people are really adaptable, and the survival skills are really good. That's why people readily accepted it. Otherwise there would be people, they would not have accepted all these things. And forceful isolation has taught us certain things, like what will you do, like if there is a real emergency where you are cut off and where you are like really isolated, so you have to be there, like with choice, without choice, you are supposed to be there. So we understood, okay, these will be your initial reconciliation. Okay, some people need more time for reconciliation, some people needed less, some people needed just a support, like movies, delivery of food, delivery of medication, they are good. We have not seen so many delivery personnel. That industry has boomed off actually. Just off, I'm speaking of the medical stuff. This delivery drones and delivery personnel, this industry has boomed off after pandemic. This is one of the industries which had boomed off. Nobody ever thought of this. Even though it is a matter of convenience now after the pandemic to order the food or order the medication and being delivered to home, it has helped us to this industry to mature, which helped in supplying all these medical or surgical related stuff, so that people are accepting all these things, and we were able to reach to a bigger geography where the healthcare and medical care personnel will not be able to go immediately, and where the care is limited. So people started using drones to deliver medication, drones to deliver drugs. Now there are drones which are delivering organs from one location to the other location in a safe manner. So these were things which were not being thought of a few years ago. Now we are seeing in our own eyes these industry are maturing, and we are in the right direction. I think like we have a lot of ground to cover, but we are in the right direction. So this will not only help the space industry part, but the medical in the medical profession too, like how the medical care is being given to a remote location where you will not be able to access easily or freely.
Yeah, and I think that this was a much needed push into the industry and also the society. Now I'd like to stay on the topic, and
Good.
I'd like to bring the audience into space again, and I'd like to keep talking about this, but how do we see the health and also the design of the future habitats on the moon and also on Mars? Because you mentioned that a lot, people are different. They have different reactions to isolation, for example, to the need of healthcare or in to care more in general. For example, for some people it's enough to have some food. For some others, they have a different approach. They need some other people to talk with, for example. So I think that also the psychological aspect and also the dynamics of the community that maybe we will have in the future on the moon, also on Mars. So how do you see all this aspect into the medical aspect of future space flight?
See, astronaut health and fitness is a very specific topic, and not uh, the organizations or the country don't usually publish what are the tests and the medical standards being actually done in the different levels of selection, or how their health is being maintained. But I can give a brief outlook on it. Like it's like a kind of a precision medicine or a personalized medicine. So during the astronaut selection, we spend a lot of time with the astronauts. Like in the stage one, there will be like several thousands or several hundred thousands applicants. Then there will be filtering of them. They will be selected out. Then they will move to the next level. Then there will be a lot of in-person interviews. Then the team will sit together and discuss. Okay, they are able to like cope up. So simply put in like 40% to 50% of the selection criteria depends on their psychological assessment. So we give a lot of weightage on psychological assessment. But if I want to brief it in one line, the thing is that the ideal astronaut candidate or the astronaut should be able to complete his mission, and he should be good to himself and others. This is like the oversimplified selection criteria for the astronauts. So now when we talk about the interplanetary missions for moon planetary body missions like moon or Mars, so there are like two stages or three stages for these astronauts to be selected. The initial astronauts, it's like an expedition mission, survival. Whether you are able, the mission objective is like to go there, land safely, do whatever minimal scientific experience, return safely back to the earth. This is survival stage of the astronaut, the expedition level. So here we do a lot of risk assessment and analysis, so that for that individual, how will he behave? Uh, Recent days, if I'm not wrong, they go up to the level of genomic and proteomic expression also. Like, so what should be the preventive procedures, like surgical procedures, like appendectomy, whether that person requires, what other things they would need before and during the preparation of the mission. Uh, Anyway, whoever has been selected as astronaut candidates, they have to undergo a strict fit regimen. So this includes both aerobic and anaerobic fitness. We don't want like pure bodybuilders. We don't want like pure marathon runners. It should be like a mix of both, so that they can be able to withstand the increased amount of stresses, like for example physical stresses. I'm not talking about the mental picture here. Their body is able to take that amount of difference in the temperature. The body is able to take that much difference in the your atmospheric pressure. So their body is able to withstand the hypobaria, hypoxia. So all these stresses, if they are able to withstand, then they become like a good astronaut candidates. So they undergo further training to improve all these fitness. So some might have like a good lung capacity, but some may not have good lung capacity. Some may have a good breath holding time with withstanding of increased atmospheric pressure. Like for example, they are going in the pressurized suit, they will be able to do so. There, the individual flight surgeon who is assigned to that, he will take the lead charge and make sure that the physical conditioning of that astronaut candidate or the astronaut is appropriately maintained for the mission. So initially there will be a general training, then there will be mission specific training, then there will be like mental conditioning program, so that they are like able to like take in those whatever the environmental risks, analyze it, approach it, and deal it properly. So uh, this is how, like, they are being prepared. So, but in the interplanetary body missions, they should be prepared for the unknown also. So that's how the ground support comes in, so that they help in during the mission, even with when there is a time delay in communication, they will be able to help them, and they will be. I think we will talk about some machine learning and artificial intelligence also at the end. But there are several
This is a spoiler alert.
techniques. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to talk
No
about it here
problem, no
because
problem.
this helps a lot. Like, to understand, first we need to understand the astronaut body so that we can prepare them for the mission, both physically and mentally. Um, Other than that,
Yeah, sure,
they
but
also
we can
undergo the
we can for
extreme.
sure with no problem talk about the role of artificial intelligence. No problem.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about it later. I think, like, I don't
Okay,
want to
okay.
spoil the surprise. So these extreme expeditions, like, if you see, many of them have a military background. So during their selection, they have been. This is one of the aspect which they look. Some or most of the agencies look, because the military personnel is already conditioned. They are able to perform their missions. They know what is to be expected for, but it is not an important requirement. There are several people who are civilians who have become astronauts also. So once the astronaut selection is complete, we the flight surgeon and the other team, the physician team, and yeah, supported by several medical and paramedical personnel, they work towards making sure that the that selected astronaut is able to extend his career to the maximum, and able to perform that mission.
So I think that this is the most important point that we were discussing about. And I'd like to stress the fact that you already mentioned at the very beginning of the episode that some let's say saline solution, thermal conditioning, and things like that are used to, let's say, mitigate the changes in the environment, in the let's say in the relative atmosphere, and then in everything what's happening around the people who are flying in space. Now I'd like to say that the biotechnology in space expedition has had a really important role. So maybe how is because of also you mentioned proteic expression in people. That's something that maybe some agencies look at. So how is the use of bioprinting and also genetic engineering developed in this field? And maybe if there is a use of these, let's say, technologies.
Biotechnology itself is a recent field. What, as per my experience, I may be a little bit rusty in the past few years, but what I have seen is that uh, the space is getting the technology directly from the biotech field. Whatever is available in the market, it is trying to spin in into the space industry. So, but the technology is getting matured in the space industry. For example, genetic engineering, like if you want to sequence certain specific expression of the genes, then it is being utilized now. There have been CRISPR technology, which is targeting delivery of the gene for the mutated patients. So that is also getting matured in the space industry, but it is an evolving industry. Still, we don't know long term risks of all these medical interventions, and the scientists and the doctors, they are still following up with patients who have underwent all these procedures, interventional procedures, so that they can understand what is going on for long term. I have personally not seen the direct genetic engineering and bioprinting being utilized with the astronauts, but there are several simulation scenarios where this has been discussed for a longer duration mission. And I have already mentioned about the personalized medicine. The space medicine for the astronaut itself is like a personalized medicine or a precision medicine. So we actually take a lot of inputs what we get from day-to-day experience with the astronaut health, and this has been utilized in the general population, and even several other industries like sports industry is utilizing this personalized medicine. But this is an evolving technology, so uh, people are trying to mature this technology, and for a few studies FDA has given fast track processing. It's not like fully approved, but they have given like fast track processing, so that they want this industry to mature, so that it can be utilized for general population. One thing which has actually occurred is the miniaturization of all these equipments. Before, all these equipments and lab machines, it used to be very very bulky, occupies bigger space in the rooms. But in the space industry, uh, mass and the weight is everything. So they try to miniaturize everything whatever they see, and make sure that it is fit in the least amount of space and volume and weight, so that it will be utilized for a longer duration mission. So that has happened, like the miniaturization of equipments have happened, and still both industries should work together. I think right now they are working as silos. So for future, I think if they work together, I think this market will become even more mature in a faster pace.
That's for sure. I'm also on that line of thought. So I think that in the future we'll see a lot of news and a lot of very interesting technology to be developed. But yeah, now as a lot of people were waiting, I bet were waiting on the next topic, which is artificial intelligence and also the use of robotics, for example, in expeditionary medicine, and also the use of artificial intelligence more in a more in a broader sense in medicine. So a lot of people maybe are thinking about robots which are capable of developing and also actuating medical procedures, for example, in space or in very remote environment. From my side, from my very personal experience, for example, I'm also thinking about genetic algorithms and also machine learning algorithms and also models that can be used to develop new techniques, new let's say growth patterns, for example. So maybe you'd like to tell us something about artificial intelligence and how it is improving the medicine of the future.
Historically speaking, medical personnel generally, I'm not telling about the few, generally, people were really skeptical in adapting towards the AI and the robotics. If you see, there are several reasons because of for this. The success rate, which was imitated in the controlled environment. For example, you know the case, you know everything, you know what to be done. The results were not exactly the same when you are trying to do it in the field. So whatever was in the theoretical part, it was not transferring to the practical part. There were several factors which were problematic for this. One of the most important thing is acceptance by the end user, which is the medical personnel. The earlier generation of people, like they were not very much familiar with the technologies, and adapting towards a newer disrupting technology will always take time. And since they have seen like failures being discussed among the peers, people were skeptical. But once the demonstration started, and once the issues like a connectivity, bandwidth, and other factors started being worked out, the type of softwares which is used, the processing speed, and the results from the robotic procedures. If you see, they are able to give a fine-tuned procedure, and the recovery time of the patient, if done everything properly, is very very good, because the field done by the robot is almost entirely sterile field. So whatever you scrub, whatever you do, when a human is in the loop, then the field becomes a little bit unsterile, whatever you do, because you have to breathe. So, but in the case of robotic procedures, the entire surgical field or the medical procedure field was actually very sterile. So it helped a lot. But the problem was, like, how precise was the procedure? How are you able to operate these machines? Can you completely rely on it? So as of now, the technology remains it as robotic assisted procedure or robotic assisted remote surgical or the medical procedure or the diagnostic procedures. So this is the current status now. But AI has recently entered into the field, and the amount of medical data which is being gobbled up by this AI systems is like tremendous in compared in the last few years. So we are seeing like a lot of improvement, especially in the field of diagnostic medicine, uh, in interpreting CT scan or an MRI scan or an ECG or any, especially in the radiology field, it has seen leaps and bounds because the systems are maturing faster. In an open market, people want to make profit. This was a profitable industry, and with AI it has become even more profitable industry. That's why the market is becoming even more mature. But the real achievement would be if the robot is able to independently able to do the procedure, or very with very limited human intervention in a remote location. This is what we are trying to achieve. uh, it needs a lot of time and effort and resources from all the industries, especially the medical technology industries, where we need like the algorithms should work properly. uh, I am not an expert in this, so that's why I'm saying from the end user point of view. Please uh, bear with me if I'm not using the appropriate the technical terms. I'm talking from the end user point of view, so just please bear with me if I make some errors. Um so the idea is people started using for cardiac procedures where the chance of human error is more, and they are using in radiotactic surgeries, usually by the neurosurgeons or orthopedicians trying to utilize in sports medicine, like a joint, um, uh, when they are trying to replace a joint or when they are trying to repair a ligament. So sports industry is like asking for specific and particular results. So that's why it's a profitable industry. That's why they are becoming more mature when compared to the other markets. So these are the hot zones right now in the medical industry, which are utilizing all these AI systems. So are these real AI? There are a lot of debates going on, because you cannot just say that data obtained from an internet or from a medical book will directly transform into a practicing art. So medicine is an art. Whatever you study, it is different. Whatever you are going to do it in the field with the patient, it is entirely different. So whether it will be able to make that amount of calculation, and every human body is unique. We are not like clones, so we are unique. So what if it identifies a normal variant to be abnormal and then decide and treat it by itself? These are the things which are like still need to be ironed out, and over a course of years, I think this will also mature, and it will be helpful, especially in earth for remote areas. There are several locations in different countries where this is like required, because the actual person cannot go and perform the procedure because of various reasons. But if it can be remotely done with a minimal intervention, then it would be really great. So right now in the space, coming back to the space industry now, in the focus of interplanetary missions, now they are looking at these time delays. So if it is a moon mission, there will be delay in seconds. If it is a Mars mission, there will be delay in minutes. So how do we account for these so that it can be these procedures can be done independently by a robot with the help of AI, or minimally assisted by the astronauts on that location. So how do we do that? So they are creating several scenarios. They are trying to build a database. So each country wants to have its own database. So they are having data being collected from these analog missions, remote missions, from the missions on the current long duration low Earth orbit missions, so that they are trying to understand, okay, what are the risks and the gaps, and how do we fill this in, which can help in the long duration mission. So we had a few robots helping for cleaning and assisting tasks also, but it was not that successful in the, I think it was launched in 2014 or 15. So there were like two robots being utilized, but it was not that successful. So I think with technology, we should not be thinking that it may not work. We should be always optimistic, so that we should understand the limitations of the AI and the robotics industries too. Like what is it required? So yeah, I think in few years, maybe a decade, once we are by the time we are ready for Mars mission, this industry should mature. That is my high hope.
I think
if
we
this
all hope.
happens, if this happens, this will help in a lot of underprivileged countries, like where these care is like totally inaccessible for them. You can just install these robots over there, then with a minimal intervention, we can deliver a lot of care. We have seen that with the drones itself, like how it can help in delivering medicines. It had made a huge difference. Like you don't need a full-fledged team to be in a remote location. With a minimal training and limited paramedical personnel and medical personnel, we can achieve a lot of things with these technologies. So I think like we should start focusing on using this on constructive purposes. So medical purpose is like one of the constructive purposes. So people should focus on this. They should not just, the industry should not just focus on the profits. The profits will be there in the future, but if they keep investing on these technologies and people showing more interest toward these technologies, then we will be there in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. I also appreciated the fact that you talking about I would say high performance sport. We have seen that nowadays a lot of research, a lot of applications are also found into athletes who are performing at a very high level. I'm thinking top athletes in cycling, for example, where a lot of teams are adopting a very wide range of professionals in very different fields who are collaborating in order to reach the peak performance for one single athlete, for example, or for a single team. And so I think that collaboration is crucial also in the field of space medicine. So I don't know if you want to say something about this topic and about the importance of collaboration in
Yeah.
this field.
Cross specialization and working together is very important. Like aerospace medicine by itself is a occupational field specialty which imbibes all the information from the different fields. So I would really suggest that it should work together within medicine and outside medicine also. So even the engineers should work towards with the medical professionals, so that we can utilize both, best of both worlds, and we can go together, like not just like growth in one industry. We can actually grow together. There is potential for growing together. Not many people talk about this because always they are focused in their current work and how do we do this, and over a period of time, your mind becomes limited. For example, if you have your phone all the time, you get addicted and you start looking down, always looking down. So that's why I personally started look up campaign with the STEM students. Look up, see there is a vast
So
sky
how
above.
it went?
Yeah, it is good actually. Like people tend to get different perspectives. Not many people see. I'm from India, so people have not heard about what is an aerospace medicine. Even now, when I talk about that, okay, I'm an aerospace medicine specialist. Among doctors, they're still baffled. Like, what is this? We have never
Wow.
heard of it. So you have to give exposure to the younger kids. You have to give them like a different varieties, like what is going on, so that you have to open up their mind. Nowadays, what has happened is like earlier we used to watch in a straight angle to the TV. Now that has come down. It has even become narrow and acute, and we are looking down at our mobile phones for everything. I think that behavior should change. Uh,
I
sorry,
think so.
mobile.
I think also.
Sorry, mobile industry. But what I want to say is like you don't need to completely stop. You have to use the technology, but don't be too much addicted to it. Look up, look up and see what is going on. Interact with people. Look up at the sky. The now even sky is not the limit. There are so many things going in the sky. So people should really spend outdoors, come outdoors, visit. They should not be just like limited to their screens. So initially, people or the students, they were not really enthusiastic. Once we started showing them videos, and once we started showing them what is going on there, people were really hooked up. I actually went for a class in a remote school in our village. This class was scheduled only for 15 to 20 minutes. The teachers told that they will not be interested in science and space, but actually it went for 6 hours.
Wow.
So they
Wow.
didn't even take a break. So I will not blame the students. You have to give the opportunity to them so that they know about more about different specialities, so that all the specialities or all the different fields will should come together. You should not be like just focusing on one angle. If your perspective becomes widened, then you will have different solutions for the same problem. That's why I would say like, okay, you have to learn the basics, then you have to expand your knowledge. You should not limit to one field only. You have to expand yourself, otherwise you will be stuck in your life. So all these field should work together, which brings us together so that we can all look into whatever problems we can sort it out, not create more problems which we already have by working alone.
This is difficult actually. Yeah, because
Space is such a field. I have seen that space gives you that overview effect. My perspective, my personal experience, my point of view, field of view, everything changed once I properly entered into space field. This is my experience. I shared with so many people like how your outlook changes totally. If you keep your problems close to the eye, then that looks very big. Zoom out, like you are seeing the sky, your problems will disappear. I That changed my outlook. Like I started seeing in a different perspective. So naturally, the solution started coming through for those problems. So even in the medical field, if I find something which is not working, I will immediately call my IT technician. This is what we are facing. So once the user gives the feedback, they are also very interested. So they say, "Oh, we can sort it out in a different way." This is also another method. So we all start working together. There might be an engineering solution also. So space is such a field where all the different specialities can come together and work together. That's why it is like a magnet which brings everyone together.
Yeah, I think that we should leverage this fascination that a lot of people have. A lot of people coming from very different fields, very different experience. I think that space is one of the very few things in life that actually is attracting people from such different kind of fields, and I think that we should leverage on this. You mentioned the fact that we should not be let's say the victim of technology, but we should learn on how to use it. We for sure
Yes.
we cannot ban it. We cannot say we don't want to use it anymore because it's like getting back into the centuries. But also on the other side, we are seeing that new generation are less capable of using technology than for example mine or yours generation, because basically a lot of people are born with the use of technology, and that's given for granted. So you get your phone into your hand and you start using it, but you are not wondering how it works, how you could improve it, for example. And the same thing happens also in a broader sense with the technology in let's say in a broader sense. So I'd like to close this really amazing episode. So thank you again for what you're saying so far, with some ethical considerations, for example in space, but also more specifically in expedition medicine, and also what can be the dilemmas that can arise in the context of space travel. For example, a lot of people are saying, okay, we don't need space, we don't need this kind of technology, we have problems here on Earth. So I think that this is a very weak point, because we have demonstrated that going to space, developing all this research is very useful. So what you would say to those people who are raising those let's say ethical consideration for the use of space and space medicine in particular?
See, any new field takes a lot of upfront investment. So space is such field. So once you make that upfront investment, you will get a lot of dividends. Every time you should not put a dollar value to anything. If you're looking for immediate or instant gratification, it will not happen in every field. So space is such a field, like you should be like little bit patient, so that once it gets mature, you have like lot of benefits. We have discussed about lot of medical benefits. Beyond medical benefits, there have been a lot of technologies which have been used in variety of industries, which helped in faster maturing of industries and bringing together everyone, collaboration between the countries, within the between the agencies within the country. So it has a lot of positive upsides. Like I think the narrative which has been given to the public has been mostly negative. Once we get the media support in projecting whatever the positives coming out of this field, people will generally change their outlook. And they have seen, many of them have personally experienced all these technologies. Like if you see, there are like many of them who have undergone LASIK, but nobody would have known like it came from the space industry. It would have been new information for them. People are going for imaging, CAT scan and MRI. They will not know, like, unless we bring out the narrative. I think space industry lacks this bringing out of narrative. Like, what is the story behind all these success transfer of technologies? Uh, there has been so much hesitation among the space in different space agencies also. I think they are more focusing on how to utilize their budget towards that specific mission, because already they are time constrained. But I strongly believe that we should promote the space education and the technologies which we receive from the space industry to the masses, like these podcasts, so that people understand and change their outlook. I think once this is done, then people will start changing their priorities, and their outlook will change, and there will be more supportive towards the industry. Once you say that from this industry I'm getting these much of benefits, then people will naturally understand. if it is used for some other mischievous purposes, then people will be angry, because billions of dollars being spent when there is a lack of primary care, then people will naturally will be aversive towards that. Once we communicate this and spread this knowledge, I think the better way to spread this knowledge is from the current generation students. So if you give them this knowledge, then they will spread them to their peers, to their family, then it will seep through the whole entire population, so that within a matter of years, or at least within a generation, we can everybody will understand what benefits are being coming out of this industry. So they will ethically also support and holistically also support this industry in bringing everyone together. And they will understand that how the space industry helps in the extreme environments or the extreme conditions also. Every country has this extreme condition scenario, so they know that, okay, even if we are in a remote location, using this technology, we can be helped out in coming out of this risk factor. So uh, the outlook of people will change once we started giving the right information to the public.
I cannot agree more what you said. Actually, because also because as you mentioned, this is the mission of the Space Info Club. That's what we were born for. That's our current mission, and what we want to do is spreading knowledge. Is not like trying to persuade people about something we don't believe and we don't think it's true. We are just saying I don't want to convince you on something. I just want you to show something. Once you see what the topics are, what space is, and where the benefits can get to, you will naturally understand the importance of it. So yeah, as you said, I think this is the most important message. And with this, I'd like to say again, thank you for this interview. You told us a lot of very super interesting topics, a lot of things we can reflect on. It was super interesting. I hope to have you back in the future, because I learned a lot, and I'm so excited to have talked to you. So thank you a lot.
Thanks for inviting me, and I hope the audience had a good time.
We'll see. But I'm really enthusiastic about it. So thanks a lot, and see you in the next episode.